Hi there, Assassins, and welcome to the first stream in a new series that we're going to be airing on a Sunday titled Rally the Creed Live. So I'm Col, and I've been looking forward to this for a little while now. So Rally the Creed was originally a podcast, but we've sort of decided that we're going to go in a different direction with it. So from now on, Rally the Creed is going to be split into two different sections. So there's going to be the live streams, which will mainly be on a Sunday night, so that'll be with me. And then we're also going to do the podcasts as well. So that'll be with other members of the team. So just for those who are new to the ones who came before, I'm Col96. I'm one of the Assassin's Creed community ambassadors here in the UK. I'm also team leader for the ones who came before, which is the Assassin's Creed community based in the UK, but it has members all around the world. So we currently have a collective total of around 25 members, but we're looking to branch out to make that even bigger and hopefully get to 30 to 40 members. And as we grow as well, we're hoping to extend our community. So we're sort of in the region of between 65 and 70,000 followers around the world, but we're hoping to take that even further. And maybe one day, sort of the tally we'd like to get to would be 100,000 assassins. So that'd be incredible. So the reasons why Rally the Creed is now live is because we've sort of split ourselves across the group into different teams. So we have the video content creation team, we have the virtual photography team, and this is something that started when my little boy was born. I decided that I couldn't run the ones who came before on my own, and I wanted to get like a collective team of content creators together. So this is me helping the video content creation team extend Rally the Creed, because it's sort of gone very quiet for 7 months and we'd like to take it to the next level. So who am I? As I say, I'm Col, and I've been an Assassin's Creed community ambassador and member of the community for a very long time now. It was 2014 when I created the ones that came before. So I think we're coming up to 11-year anniversary this year, but the years are just rolling by, and it's crazy really, because what started as a very small writing project has now become like a global fan community. So it started as me writing Assassin's Creed theories on a website, and that was Weebly, if anyone's ever heard of that platform. And then it's slowly grown to this what it is today, this huge project that is like a full-time job for myself and many other members of the team. So one thing I'd like to mention tonight is if anyone does decide to donate any diamonds, stars, any gifts, it is all for our charity project. So any donations will be going to the cause that we're doing. It's the 2025 Assassin's Creed Community Fundraiser, and that is for blood cancer. So I'm going to read out the charities that we're supporting this year. It's Blood Cancer Alliance and Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and this is a collection of charities around the world who are leading the fight in the battle against blood cancer. So every year we find a way of helping the real life connections to Assassin's Creed, and this could be a cause, a fundraiser, a charity, and we always find a connection. So obviously with blood cancer, blood is the key for all Assassin's Creed projects, and Assassin's Creed wouldn't exist without blood and accessing the DNA. So we really want to support these charities as they do work around the world. It's not just the UK. But that's one of the main reasons I've set up this Sunday stream, is so we can push to get past £1,000 raised for these charities. And we're currently on £842, but anything you guys can donate, any gifts, diamonds, whatever TikTok currency you'd like to support us with, we will pass that money on and hopefully reach that target of £1,000, which would be incredible. But massive thank you to everyone who supported the cause so far. And I'd just like to go back in time a little bit, back to 2014, and that's how the ones came before started. So as I said, it was a writing project, but it originally started with me writing these articles, and then it sort of took off really in about 2015, and that was when Ubisoft got the attention, and it was because people were sending my theories across to them, and they were reading them and they were thinking, oh, this is really interesting, and they actually reached out to me and got me on a live stream. So even though this is my first time hosting a live stream, Ubisoft and I have worked together many times on live streams and podcasts, and the Assassin's Creed community as well. So yeah, with this, it's slowly developed into a thing which was #UbiCall, which was where Ubisoft would get me on these streams for Assassin's Creed Unity, and basically people would join in the chat. It was like a community hangout, which is sort of what I'd like to bring to life with these videos on a Sunday. We want to do the podcasts and the live streams, but yeah, it's just sort of like giving other people the opportunity. And at the end of this stream every Sunday. I'd like to get your opinions. There's all sorts I'd like to cover in this. So mainly the future of Assassin's Creed, the Black Flag rumours. I'd also like to get into positions available, the ones that came before, how you can get involved in the community, and also just basically talking about the Netflix series, which is obviously the big talking point right now alongside Black Flag. But yeah, so it originally started as a very small team. It was me and my brother, and then we went from there. We looked for a graphic designer because we realized we needed to build a brand and take the ones that came before to the next level. And over the years, we've had people come and go, because the main thing really was when the RPG saga started, and a lot of people dropped away from that. And it's because Assassin's Creed was changing and not everyone could deal with how much it was changing. And that's fair enough. The games are very different now to what they once were. But building this team, and now it's sort of like a huge project, a scaling amount of people. And we're always looking for next members to join the team. And it's just incredible, really, that we've got this amount of support from Ubisoft. And like I mentioned with the fundraiser, they've donated codes. So once we do hit, we're going to say 900, I'll release another 9 codes for Assassin's Creed Shadows. But as well as the Ubisoft support, I'd also like to maybe take that into this weekly stream. So maybe Ubisoft could maybe perhaps bring on some of the voice actors, or we could get on some the writers for Assassin's Creed. That'd be really cool. But also prominent community members. So anyone really who'd like to get involved. At the end, I'm going to be inviting people in the chat. So you guys keep your comments coming in, and we'll get a few guests on at the end. And perhaps moving forwards, as we become more established, we'll be able to get guests in advance, and we can have a proper discussion about all things Assassin's Creed. So I want to kick things off by talking about the future of Assassin's Creed and the recent rumours about Black Flag. So obviously here at the ones that came before, we don't discuss leaks, but things are suggesting that a Black Flag remake or maybe some project relating to the game is in development. And the reason I say that is because Yves Guillemot, the CEO of Ubisoft, has recently written in an article that there are several remake projects in development, and the other evidence which you can tie towards this is that Rick Bower, the cosplayer, has also been creating a project about Black Flag, and some of the Ubisoft accounts have been sharing this. Now, he has stated that he's just purely working on this project to enhance his skills, but the timing is suspicious as the rumours are also floating around. So I think it's really interesting that perhaps this year, the year that obviously Shadows content's coming out, we might also get a Black Flag remake, which is actually one of my favourite games. Obviously, you'll recognise the skull. And I just want to get your guys' opinion on what would you like to see in a remake of Black Flag. I mean, the game came out in, I believe, 2014, 2015, so it's roughly 10 years old. And one thing I'd really like to see, and I guess a few people might as well, this would be more for like the lore fanatics in the franchise, is take the Black Flag novel by Oliver Burden, which is, I'd say, 90% canon, take some of them elements and also place them in the game. So there's a lot that was cut from the book. I think it'd be really interesting if we could take some of them Black Flag elements that weren't in the game. There's a lot that was cut from the book, like I say, and it was like, maybe they didn't have time in the original game, and there's only so much you can put in. But with this, and also the link to the Animus Hub and Assassin's Creed Infinity, maybe they can add more content. So that would be new content. Obviously, there's the hint as well from Matt Ryan, who has suggested that something's coming soon. But it'd be really cool if they could look at the book and maybe pick out some of the core bits. And for example, with this, I would say Edward's original origin, so maybe they could do some flashbacks to where Edward started as a farmer. Obviously in the game Mission 1, you literally dive straight in, you're at sea, and you just straight into the game, and then you go back a little bit in some flashbacks. But I think it'd be really cool if we could look at Edward's origins. He was a farmer originally. He also met the Templars way before Assassin's Creed even kicks off in the game. I mean, his partner, her parents were Templars, and they were basically controlling an area of Wales. I think it'd be really interesting to see that. That's just one idea. I mean, look at the book and maybe bring them to life, get Matt Ryan back and have additional missions that people didn't have. I mean, it is a remake after all. It's not a remaster, so there are going to be differences. One thing I'd like as well is more sea shanties. That'd be really cool. I know everyone's a big fan of the shanties. What shanties would you guys like to see? I mean, there's been some famous TikTok ones recently. Would you like to see them in the game, or would that be too silly? Are there any particular shanties that you guys like that weren't in the game? I mean, there's other pirate projects that have been around, and TV, Netflix, and The Black Sail's a good one. Maybe they had some songs that you guys liked that we could maybe put in the game. That'd be cool. Some other things, I think some of the legacy outfits, I mean, there's a ton of games since Black Flag released. It'd be really cool to see like maybe Bayek's outfit in there. And this is all stuff that's possible with the Infinity platform, so you can connect all Assassin's Creed games. I think another thing that'd be cool would be to add maybe collectibles that weren't available in the original, and then you could add like hidden secrets. Maybe a new modern day narrative. I mean, obviously we're connecting up with other games now. Valhalla had probably the strongest modern day in recent history, and then maybe connect all these things together. I mean, Assassin's Creed is looking bright in terms of future games. There's a ton of stuff coming out, as well as obviously the potential Black Flag remake, Hexa as well. There's a Netflix series that's been announced and greenlit this week, so there's a ton of stuff they can do really, but it'd be nice if they could find a way to connect it all with the Infinity platform. So what would you guys like to see in a Black Flag remake? What sort of things do you want? Obviously graphics are a main one. It needs to step up really. I'm gonna check your guys' comments, but yeah, obviously the RPG style moving across to the Black Flag game. That's a really good point, James. It'd be interesting to see if they did something like that, especially in the combat system. They could really add a load of new finishing moves and stuff, make it more brutal than ever. I mean, Black Flag was a popular game, and it still is to this day, but I know a lot of people had complaints with the time it takes for Edward to become an assassin. Maybe they could shift a few missions, or I'm not saying cut a few missions because obviously they were in the original, but it's interesting. People don't think of Edward as the stealthiest assassin, but maybe they could add some more tools for him. I mean, one thing that I find interesting is in recent years, they've added a graphic novel for Edward, which is based in, I believe he goes across the sea to Asia. So some of that is semi-canon, they call it, because it sort of overlaps with established lore in the game. So it'd be really cool to see Edward maybe go across to maybe China or somewhere like in the graphic novel and bring that to life. I've not personally read that myself because of the whole element of the lore being like semi-lore, you know, where it's sort of like overlapping. Some of it's real, some of it's not, and some of it's canon. It gets very complicated when you introduce this sort of material, but a game could set out exactly what is canon and what's not. So that's one thing I definitely find interesting. Like I said, with the shanties, it'd be cool if Edward could also sing on the shanties, because as we know, it's the singers on the boat who are also contributing, but Edward never really sings himself. He just sort of encourages it from his men. So I think that's one thing that could be really cool. I'd also like to see a bit more of the side characters as well, because I know there's quite the cast in Black Flag, and I think a lot of people would bring back maybe Mary Read for a few more. And I think also some of the characters that are more involved later in the game as well, you know, like the assassins, and obviously Adewale, who we've seen in, you know, the later game Rogue since, maybe a few more missions with their relationship. Got a message here from James. I think the problem is that if they change too much story mechanics, fans could complain about it. That's a very good point, to be fair. They don't want to mess with it too much, but I think introductions of other elements could be interesting. I know someone said in a Facebook comment yesterday, what if they changed the ship, the Jackdaw? So I can't actually remember what kind of ship it is, but what if you could customize it a bit more? I know in appearance there's obviously a lot of customization options, but what if you could swap the Jackdaw ship for a different style of ship, maybe a bigger ship, smaller one, whatever you would like to do? I mean, at the end of the day, it is a stolen ship. What if he traded it for another one? I mean, does that interfere with the law? Maybe a little bit, because I guess Adewale finds the remains of the Jackdaw at the bottom of the ocean, but for maybe it's an Animus glitch or something, just something that people might like to see. But I think it'd be really cool to get obviously the updated graphics, and I'm just imagining what the graphics are going to be like, the visuals, because I mean hardware's come a long way since then. I mean, I run a gaming PC, the graphics are phenomenal. Another message from James, ship customization would be great. Jackdaw could just be the name. Absolutely, I fully agree with that. I mean, at the end of the day, a ship's a ship. I mean, they go down and then you can raise a new one with the same name. It can be the Jackdaw Mark II, but they don't even have to get into it that much in the lore. It can just be, this is your ship, the Jackdaw. How would you like it to be? I think another thing that'd be cool if you had more like assassin elements on the ship. I mean, Edward's obviously connected to the Brotherhood, but not really an assassin until later on in the game, but he really does interact with the Templars at home, and he goes back and basically like changes things there. because they're corrupt. And there's even more Templars in like stories as well, like I said, the novel, and there are like lore missions and things that Edward went off and did. So it'd be really cool. I mean, a lot of people wanted a Black Flag 2, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point. But I just think it's really interesting that there's so much they can do with this, like the scope of it. I mean, even like from the graphics to the shanties. And what do you guys really want to see? I mean, taking it into the RPG sort of element would be risky, because I know a lot of people think of it as maybe like the step before they went into that. I mean, Origins is probably like the first one that really took on the RPG title and ran with it. But I think adding things like new weapons, obviously there's like the blow dart, but maybe like additional throwing knives. I think one thing that would be cool is if Edward had maybe the ability to like double assassinate from like higher points. So maybe he could like jump from like the edge of like a temple, you know, like on the islands, and like proper like fully double assassinate, maybe different finishing moves. I mean, the animation team could do a ton of things. I mean, not just an Assassin's Creed game. Black Flag is a great pirate game as well. So there's a load of things they can do with this. But what do you guys want to see in a Black Flag remake? Obviously, it's the big talking point right now. Everyone's talking about it, even if it is just in the rumor stages. I'd love to see what you guys think. Better combat. Yeah, I think I've read this. This is the thing, going back to James's point, fans could complain a lot about it if they changed too much, but like I said, I think it'd be really cool if they just added a ton of stuff, but stayed to the origin of the game, because it really was a special game. I know Rogue tried to do what was done with the naval elements, but Black Flag is such a huge game as well. I think I read a statistic the other day that it's the third biggest Assassin's Creed game. Maybe they could expand that even further and open up. If you think of the map is like this size, what if they could add the waters and the islands like this big and just take it like, I don't know, maybe another few miles one direction where there's like more islands that we haven't explored. And I believe there was DLC content for Black Flag as well. I wonder if that will be remade. I'm not sure. Because obviously that would be Freedom Cry, I think technically would be the first one. I wonder if they'll look at remaking that as well with the same graphics. Because obviously that was the same engine, that was Adewale. That'd be really interesting. James, I want to enjoy it in the remake. Black Flag isn't my favourite. I've seen a few of your videos discussing Black Flag, James. That's fair enough. It's not for everyone, because like you say, the assassin elements come a little bit later in the game. It is a bit of a pirate and personal story. Edward is a very selfish person. And one thing I find interesting about Edward Kenway is the way he was portrayed in the marketing was completely different to what we see in the game. So obviously he's doing it in the game all for his partner back home, and it's all about, you know, getting enough gold to give her a comfortable life. But in that time, life gets away from him and things aren't the same when he does eventually return. You know, I won't spoil it if anyone's new to the game, but for example, it'd be really interesting if Edward made more journeys home, perhaps in that. And yeah, James says that's my issue mainly. Yeah, that's fair enough. And Assassin's Creed has tried to do this, and it poses the question, do you have to be an assassin to be the protagonist of an Assassin's Creed game? And I'd say that perhaps started with Black Flag, and it makes you wonder, is that the main thing that the next few games have ran with? I mean, you look at Odyssey, you've got the Mystios, you've then got Origins before that, which is not Eagle Bearer, you've got Bayek, who's like a protector. And then even looking at now, like Eivor has no real interest in joining the Assassin Brotherhood. Shadows Nawe is from like a family of assassins who are like a branch off the main assassin. So it's almost like Ubisoft are trying to explore different stories of what it could be like to have an Assassin's Creed universe with the assassins sort of interacting with the main characters, but not necessarily becoming assassins, if that makes sense. But it's just one thing to think about is. And that's one thing that we could pose for the Netflix show as well. Does the main character have to be an assassin? Because thinking about Netflix and also the Hexe game, which probably comes out in 2026, 2027. I mean, if the rumours are true about that, it's looking like Germany, you know, Eastern Europe. And if it's witch trials of any kind, I don't really understand how witches and assassins line up just yet. But perhaps that could be another thing where someone who was going to be burned at the stake would perhaps get away and join the Brotherhood because the people in charge are Templars. And I know there's sort of like the element of the eagle, but would that be replaced by cats? I mean, there's also the idea of powers with the Pieces of Eden. I mean, there's a ton of stuff they could do with Hexe. But moving on from Black Flag, This is sort of something I wanted to discuss as well, is with Hexe, would they be able to make it fun? Because it's meant to be like the darkest tone of an Assassin's Creed game. I mean, you guys have seen the teaser. There's the sort of Blair Witch Project in the tree, which is like the wooden carving, and it pans down, and you just sort of see like the trees and the darkness, and it just gives you that idea of like burnings and like running away in the trees. Message from James. What if witches are just Templars accusing assassins to justify killing them? That is a very good point. All they need really is a scapegoat, and you could call anyone a witch back in the day. I mean, there's a ton of unjust reasons. Anyone who is an assassin could easily be, made to be brought before the stake and be accused of being a witch, and there's a ton of things they could do with that. I'm imagining like mass executions, and this could be by the people in charge, who could indeed be the Templars, or maybe even some other sinister forces behind the scenes. I mean, we tend to have like the Cult of Cosmos and these other like branches, the ancient ones, call them what you like, they're all very similar. Those who want control versus those who want to bring free will to man. And this is interesting because with the obviously rumours around Hexe, it's looking like we're finally going to get a dedicated female protagonist, and it is about time, in my opinion. I mean, they've sort of been back and forth on it, with the whole choose your character scenario, such as they did with Valhalla, and even in Shadows as well. And it has worked nicely, but I think it's really good that they're finally going to commit to that if the rumours are true. And this is something I wanted to get into as well with the Netflix show. I think the best thing to do, really, rather than like the Assassin's Creed movie, have just one working assassin in the past. It'd be cool if they could explore maybe different time periods and sort of jump through time. Comment here from James. In the Black Flag remake, could we get a Pirate of the Caribbean Easter egg? Oh, that'd be a ton of fun, to be fair. I know in Assassin's Creed 3 they had one of the voice actors from Pirates of the Caribbean, the first mate. He was also the first mate in 83 helping Connor. He's known for Not That Foot, the other one, as Connor steps on the ship, and you guys will probably remember that. That's Connor's first time on a ship. He's never been on one before, and he sort of learns a bit more about his granddad, Edward, who was also seafaring. And with the Netflix series, another question I'd like for you guys is, would you be interested in having characters from the games in the TV show? Because my worry is, what if they get someone to play one of the main characters? For example, they tried it with Arno in the movie, if you look carefully, and in the deleted scenes especially, they've got Michael Fassbender playing Arno Dorian, which for some people was a bit strange, and even though it's just in the background as they sort of pivot around all the assassins in the room and he fully synchronized, it'd be interesting to see if they get actors, or maybe even the voice actors, to play some of these characters. I mean, I've met some of the voice actors in real life, I've interviewed quite a few of them, and it would be really cool to know if they'd be interested in playing the roles. Message from Ashley. It would be strange to hear a different voice playing well-known characters. That is a very good point, and this is a worry of mine, is if they got someone as big as like Ezio and they brought them on board and then had like a different voice. You're just used to that iconic voice. I know they tried it in Chronicles China. They got a random person to play Ezio, and the funny thing is, a fan, Luma, contacted Roger Craig Smith and got him to do all the lines that Ezio did for free, and he brought out a video of Xiao Jun training with Ezio with the real voice and sort of made it out to be, oh, this is a glitch in the Animus and this is how it should sound. Comment from James. But would they get an Italian to play Ezio? That's a very good point. I mean, as we know, Roger is not an Italian, he's American, so that's a very good point. And the other thing is, if they did 3 versions of Ezio, would they be able to do 3 different castings? Would they do CGI? I'm not even sure how they do it. I think they'd have to avoid this sort of thing to avoid backlash. Ashley, do you think you would ever be cast to voice a character? I don't think so. I think my northern accent would be too much for people to handle. When I originally started doing podcasts and videos, people would really struggle with my accent. But now I've moved down to Chester, people can actually understand me now. So I don't think I'd ever get asked by Ubisoft, but I'd be more than happy to work alongside Ubisoft on any sort of Netflix project. So if there's the TV series coming out, or even a Netflix game, which was talked about at one point, I'd be more than interested in joining for that sort of thing. And that would be sort of like what I did on the Assassin's Creed movie. So I helped with all the promotion for that here in the UK. I was at a lot of the early events in 2016. I mean, I actually had the opportunity to meet the director of the movie. So if Ubisoft wanted any sort of like promotional support like we did originally in 2016, I would definitely be interested in that. Oh, I recognise a few people in chat. Hi Beth, thanks for joining. And yeah, I want to sort of cover the Netflix show in a bit more detail. I wanted to cover some of the time periods I'm interested in seeing. So one thing I'd like to see is Australia, because that's somewhere we've never seen in an Assassin's Creed game before. And this is something that came to my interest by a show that I watched years ago, and it was all about the historical colonies, like how Australia was started, and it was the prisoners from England getting moved across on ships, and they were made to build over there, and they had to create like settlements. So I think that would be really interesting. Maybe there could be some runaways who join the assassins down under, like it. Could get some kangaroos going around as well. It could be a ton of fun. Maybe start that as a time period, and then we could drop to another time period. I think World War One and Two are obviously things that people would request, but it's very difficult to do things within recent history. So obviously World War Two, I mean, there are people still alive to this day who remember the war. And I think it's really difficult as well because casting Templars, there might be people who are related. And this is the problem they had with Assassin's Creed Syndicate. They had to change a lot of the names, create characters, because they just couldn't really discuss or imply that someone was like a quote unquote bad guy when they're still like, they have relatives to this day. Maybe some of them they've got sons who are still alive, daughters. It's really difficult when it's within recent history. Obviously World War II was in 1940s, so what's that, about 80 years ago? But for all we know, there are people still related to or around from that day, so very difficult topics to cover. But yeah, so James, sounds like a pitch for an AC game right there, Carl. I wanted to actually bring into your article that's been worked on. We're actually, here at the ones who came before, we're looking at creating an article and a pitch for an Assassin's Creed game based in Scotland. I've actually just got back from holiday in Urban and Glencoe. It's an amazing part of the world, and Glencoe's so peaceful. But just imagine it in a historical setting. You can maybe have like England versus Scotland, maybe the Irish coming across. There's a ton of things you could do. You could do clans in Scotland, William Wallace. There's so much you can do in the Scottish history. And Valhalla sort of covered this a little bit by going up to the Isle of Skye, but they could take it even further by having Scotland, like all the islands as well, and maybe have a bit more travel. I think that'd be really cool. And I think one thing we're currently creating is an original character wearing a kilt, because we've never seen that in an Assassin's Creed game. It could be a ton of fun. You could have hidden weapons, and you guys know, maybe get some bagpipe blades or something silly like that. It could be fun. But sort of the other direction, we could go very futuristic with Assassin's Creed. That's another article I'm working on right now. I mean, imagine like a setting where the Templars have won. We're 500 years in the future, 300 years, however you want to do it. Maybe everyone is in like a cryogenic stasis, where they're all in like pods, like in Prometheus, and the assassins are slowly trying to wake people up one by one. That could be really cool. I think the Netflix series has a huge potential, really. It could literally bring to life all the requested things that the games haven't covered yet. So really, it feels like the games right now are going through the most requested, but maybe the Netflix could do more unusual requests like the ones I've just mentioned. And cyberpunk style assassins could work. Yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, what I like to see in the comic books is that they sort of did bring in like futuristic technology, and they sort of did this with the instruments of the First Will and the Isu, and that was like the people who were helping Juno were all wearing basically like robot armor, and they had like jetpacks and things. So a bit like the Mandalorians in Star Wars, if you guys remember that. So I think it'd be really cool to sort of go in that direction. And maybe the Templars have completely won. Everything's AI and everyone's asleep. And basically one by one, they hack into your, let's say you've got like a visor on or you're in an Animus. They hack into your network and bring you back to being awake. I think something that'd be cool though, and it's been discussed in Assassin's Creed Revelations before though, is if before you're awake in real life, you're awake mentally. So one thing Desmond had to do was unlock all the memories and get to full synchronization while he was in the Animus. And this was with the help of Clay. Maybe they could get someone like Basim or Layla, who's currently in the Animus, and they're sort of in like the between stage. Maybe they could help wake people up and help them. And when people are awake, maybe they could do some damage to these, like, I'm imagining like millions of humans across the world who are all like trapped in these like pods and maybe something like that. Maybe you could unlock them one by one, unlock people who are going to be useful to the cause, and maybe people who were assassins originally. Let's say everyone bought an Animus overnight. So I'm sort of thinking like the Chucky doll situation. If you guys have seen the Child's Play movies, maybe everyone bought an Animus. They all strapped in at the same time, and they just got like frozen, and then the Templars took over while everyone was sleeping. Question: do you think we could be able to change history? I'm not sure about this, because this was one of the original plans for Assassin's Creed. They were talking about time travel and affecting the past. I'm not sure if they could be able to do that, just because what's happened has happened and we're viewing it in the future. But if they wanted to do that, it could change the entire franchise. Like things that have happened, people who have died, maybe they'd be able to find a way to bring them back to life. But it's a great question though. But I feel like obviously we're 15 years into the franchise. If they were going to do something like that, I feel like they probably would have done this years ago, if that makes sense. They sort of covered it a little bit in the non-canon comic books, but I don't think many people read them, to be fair. But it's an interesting question. What do you guys want to see in the Netflix series? What would be your chosen time period? And would you also like a balance between the modern day and the past? That ship has probably sailed now, that's fair enough. And one interesting thing as well I was thinking about earlier is, would you be interested in seeing the cast from the Assassin's Creed movie return, maybe in like cameo form, or maybe they're all forming like a modern day brotherhood? And even like characters from the games, they could bring them to life. I'm guessing, like we mentioned before, CGI would be the best way to do it, but Danny Wallace would be amazing to have as Sean Hastings. You know, he's a huge fan of Assassin's Creed. He's been working on the games since Assassin's Creed 2, so he's been part of the journey since 2009, so a long period of time now. He's always up for the Assassin's Creed projects with the community. He's a great person, so I'm sure he'd be interested, and he looks just like his character as well. And one thing I'd say now, that the more recent games are making him look a little different. I mean, Danny wouldn't have to do too much to look like that, but his voice, obviously iconic. It'd be great to have him involved. And then Michael Fassbender as well. I mean, he's done TV shows before, Netflix shows, so perhaps he'd be interested in jumping on board. And I know it didn't go so great with the backlash to the Assassin's Creed movie. It was a bit of a disappointment for some people, but to have him on board, that's the star power that I feel like they're going to have to get some people in this who people know. And obviously they've got some well-known writers on board now, and the project's been in development for 5 years, but it's just been greenlit now because there's been like people leaving the project, and there were people on board who were interested. Maybe they've left some ideas behind that can be picked up. And it'd be cool. Yeah, it's a good point from James. I'd love to see a different assassin every season. That would introduce a lot of new characters. That could be really interesting. But we need to get a new, what's called MacGuffin, which is like the reason you're going back in time. So it's like the core element. What are we looking for? Why are we doing it? I mean, literally every Assassin's Creed game is finding a piece of Eden, but could it be more than that? Could there be some other clever way of doing it? I mean, I always liked a podcast with Darby McDevitt where he discussed the possibility of some kids breaking into Abstergo, jumping into an Animus and just joyriding, like hopping through history. And they would just like jump in an Animus, see who their ancestor is, and jump in. Another one would jump in. And this is sort of like the Assassin's Creed comic books that were out years ago. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was sort of connected to the branch of Abstergo that Victoria Bilbao was a part of. And she was like overseeing as their doctor. And these kids were like school kids, and their teacher basically realized that some of them had like assassin DNA and brought them into like a homemade Animus and discovered their ancestors. One of them was in a wheelchair, and using the Animus was a way for him to like run mentally so that he didn't feel suicidal. So it was really deep stuff, and it was really interesting as well. So it was just something that hadn't been covered before. I definitely found it interesting. I know a lot of people enjoyed them back in the day. And that was probably quite a while ago now. It was probably around the 2016 mark. But the comic books, for example, and the other ones as well by Christie, they were really good. Christie Golden it was. It was the books like Heresy. They were discovering new ideas about how assassins can be and how the franchise can adapt, really. And does it always have to be the same? Does it always have to be an assassin you play as? Or, I mean, looking at Heresy, for example, that was Simon Hathaway. He was the modern day protagonist who was actually a Templar who was looking for a piece of Eden to help Abstergo. So it was really interesting stuff. So lots of things they can do with the Netflix series. And it's exciting that it was greenlit this week around the time of the Black Flag rumours. So it makes me think that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Comment from James: in the pitch I'm writing, I have Ancestry.com as an Abstergo front. I'm surprised they've never done it. That's a really clever idea. I guess it'd be really difficult to use like actual I guess it'd be like companies, and I know they do a lot of work with the police as well. Ancestry.com, they've got a really huge network of DNA profiles on their website, but it's a pretty cool idea. It works really well for our original characters as well, so I like that idea. But what do you guys think about the Netflix series? Like, as soon as you read that we had writers on board, where did you think we'd be going? Did you think we'd be going to somewhere we've been before? Maybe they're going to go back to Renaissance Italy. Maybe they're going to go back to Egypt. Or would you like something completely different, like the ones I said before? I said Australia, World War One, Two, Scotland, and then Futuristic. They're just a few ideas we can throw out. But if you have a look on the Ones That Came Before website, we have a series called Pitching an Assassin's Creed Game, and it basically discusses all the different possibilities. We looked at a Black Flag 2, which wasn't actually Edward Kenway. It was going to be Chinese pirates, because apparently before the pirates of obviously the well-known, Nassau and Caribbean, there was actually a lot of pirating going on in Asia across the sea, and this was actually a really interesting pitch by Finn on the team. James says, I think they have to do something completely original. I fully agree. And that's what the Assassin's Creed movie did. And it was true to itself. It was new characters and it did its own thing. But it did sort of connect to characters who were already established. You had Christopher Columbus, who Ezio met in a little mini side-scroller game. So they had to be careful about the lore there. But then, speaking of the lore as well, the problem with the movie people have is that it sort of undermines some of the established lore that had already been created. So it sort of treaded over territory that had already been done. But the problem was they recast a few of the main people. So, for example, at Abstergo, they had the main guy in charge, I forget his name, but he was obviously in Assassin's Creed 1. He was one of the figureheads of Abstergo. Some of you guys might be able to remember his name. I've not seen it in a little while. But yeah, it'd just be Alan Riking, Alan Riking, Dr. Alan. So that's his name. He was cast with, obviously, Jeremy Irons in the movie, and that was something completely different. And his look and everything from the Assassin's Creed 1 look at him, and then even in comic books as well, he was a larger gentleman, and obviously Jeremy Irons is like a skinny older man. So they sort of completely recast there. It's totally different. So that's just one thing that I found quite interesting there. But if you guys have any ideas for where you'd like the Netflix series to go, let me know. And I just want to wrap up there by saying that we do have positions open on the Ones That Came Before. So we have some writing positions open. We're trying to completely redo the writing team. We have video content creator positions going. So if anyone would like to do more live streams such as this on a Sunday, if you'd like to come on board and cover some news for us, if you're a fan of Assassin's Creed and you're interested in content creation, definitely get in touch. We've got a ton of positions available. And I'd also like to say that we're going to be going forward and doing more Q&A. So if anyone's got any questions for the team, so obviously there's myself in charge, but there's 25 others on board the team. We can get some guests on. And also next week, I'd like to get my first guest on board. So if anyone's interested, we could maybe bring some people on. We'll maybe look at getting some Ubisoft guests on board. Like I said before, we can get some of the voice actors on board and just make this like a nice community hangout, a space for people to hang out and discuss Assassin's Creed. It's going to be every Sunday around the 10 o'clock mark. Perfect time for me because my wife's back at work now and also my little boy's asleep. So it's like the perfect time for me. And also when you look at time zones as well, in America, it's afternoon, Canada as well. So it works really well. So thank you for joining, guys. This was the first stream in the Rally the Creed live series, and I'm looking forward to joining you guys every Sunday as we go forward. So any more questions before I head off? I'll have a read. I think Ottoman Empire would be a good one, maybe an Age 1 too. Absolutely. There's a ton of things they can do with the Netflix series and also potential new games in the future. So thanks for joining me, guys, and I will see you next time. Thank you.